YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I got blockbuster trade scenarios that could happen this offseason. Most recent video talked about the likely trade candidates. This video, the bigger name guys. Every offseason the last few years has been those splash surprising trades that no one was expecting. So we're trying to find those and see which ones could happen here. So excited about this. Check out that recent video for more of the expected trade candidates. We have all kinds of offseason content on the channel and more to come. So join us, like, subscribe to notifications on. Help us get to 100K. We much appreciate it. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. How about Diggs? Let's start with Diggs because he's actually been talked about a little bit. He had a little bit of an off year. Still a great player, obviously. I would actually almost expect him to play better next year than he did this year. Still a great player. And then, a guy that kind of gets brought up in trade talks and, maybe the Bills want to get younger. Maybe the chemistry's not there. Now, with this video, I'm not really saying these trades will happen. Again, we're trying to identify like the Tyreek Hill trade, the Russell Wilson trade, the surprising ones that happen. But I'm not just blurting out any crazy trade. I do think these are somewhat realistic. So, and Diggs has been brought up. Again, if he were to be traded, I like the Lions. I think people think of the Lions like they're set at receiver. I'd say not so fast. Amon-Ra St. Brown's fantastic. Dominates a lot in the slot. If they can get Diggs for the outside to pair with him, they have the cap space for this. They're a team that could afford to do this based on where they are at, not just financially, but how good they are. They're trying to contend, obviously, take that next step. So how about the 29th overall pick? If it's going to be a first-round pick, it's probably going to be a late one, and then brings up, do the Bills want to do it for that? Do they want to break up Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs? Maybe not. Maybe not. I think most likely he probably stays, but again, the off seasons are getting crazier and crazier. Like there's those trades every off season that, I predict some weird shit here, but there's been some stuff that happens that I'm like, what? Like, how did that happen? Where did that come from? So we're trying to find those surprising ones here, but don't just want to just throw out any name. But if Diggs were to be traded, I do like the Lions. I think they make the most sense, for them. And the Titans can be looking for a receiver, but are they good enough for them right now? Maybe the Ravens possibly. The Lions are the team that stood out the most for me. And then next, another receiver, Tyler Lockett. Seahawks very well could keep him. They want to be a passing attack type offense, but they also, they want to be able to run the ball too, and they can. Jackson Smith-Njigba was fantastic in the second half of the year. He started getting more action. Maybe Lockett got a little bit less, but still a key factor of that offense. His contract's starting to get a little closer to the end of it. Maybe they move on from him. Maybe they could use the space financially. They could clear some space. They're in the negative right now. I think they easily can get out of it, but maybe they look to make a move like this because they feel like they're set at the receiver position. Maybe the front office was thinking ahead when they took JSN. It's definitely possible. So, and then they could draft another one. They're pretty good at finding some. So I think this is possible. And this is tough though. There's several teams that can get Lockett. I like the Panthers though. And it's a little tricky because you would think the Panthers, they're a young team. They're going to have a second-year quarterback in Bryce Young. They got a young coach, offensive-minded coach in Dave Canales. Maybe they want young guys, and I do think that's true. They want young guys, in there, and I think they'll get that through the draft. But if they get a veteran receiver in there that's good, proven, it's going to help them right now. It's going to help Dave Canales' offense. It's going to help Bryce Young play much better. And then there is a connection there with Dave Canales, Tyler Lockett. He came from the Buccaneers this past year, but he was with the Seahawks for a bit, obviously on the offensive side of the ball. So he was... he's very familiar with Tyler Lockett. So I think the Panthers made sense there, but you can list off quite a few teams. I thought Chicago, the Bears were pretty interesting because Shane Waldron is a connection there as well. They got Shane Waldron, who was the Seahawks offense coordinator, and they could be looking to pair somebody with DJ Moore. They do have a pair of first-round picks, and other picks and a lot of money to spend in free agency, so maybe they go that route. So they stood out as well. We talk about the Lions with Diggs, maybe the Lions. Titans are going to be desperate for a receiver. Cardinals, teams like that. But Panthers, there was that connection there, and they might want a solid veteran here to pair with. I would think they would target one in the second or third round, and your first pick in the second round of the draft. Third round pick in the trade, made some sense there. Second, talent level, he's probably worth the second, but it seems like a little steep for, with the receivers that are going to be in the draft and the young receivers that are taking over. It wouldn't be worth it for the Panthers to trade a second. A third could be worth it for Carolina there. Next, staying with the Seahawks. This one's bold. All right, I'm getting a little bold here with Kenneth Walker, who is Seahawks legit running back, but they have another one in Zach Charbonnet. Whenever he got action, he looked legit. Like he looked, maybe not as explosive as Walker. He's a little smarter of a runner than Walker, and he probably catches the ball a little bit better, to be honest. But Walker does have a little bit more juice to him. But the Seahawks bring in Ryan Grubb from Washington. There's a lot of passing in that offense. That's where they're gearing things towards. Is there room for two potential lead backs? Maybe trade Walker, get some pretty good value, and then draft one in later rounds to pair with Zach Charbonnet in this offense. So I'm not counting on this. It's going to surprise a lot of people, but there is a possibility because the type of who they hired at coordinator, type of offense that there is maybe not it isn't smart to kind of keep two RB1s on that team and maybe get some value out of this and help them. It clears a little bit of space, which they need, and it gives them a draft pick. Shane Waldron, offense coordinator Seahawks, he went to the Bears. He's now their offense coordinator. The Bears got running backs, but there's no running back one in there. There's decent running backs, but there's no running back one. Waldron, balanced, valued passing, running. He really liked Kenny Walker, obviously. In Seattle, he knows how good he is. That made some sense to me. So third-round pick. Would the Seahawks part with him a third? Would they need a second? It's a possibility. I don't think anybody would trade a second. He does have some small durability concerns. He's explosive, but sometimes he doesn't see the hole properly. So he's not an elite running back. He's not a star running back, but he is very, very solid. So if he were to be traded, it's a surprise one, obviously, but that's kind of the point of this video. But I can see it for the reasons I explained. I have to have a reason for these guys I have in this video. Not just throwing anybody out there. But if he were to be traded, I like the Chicago Bears for him. I know they did part with a second-round pick of theirs when they trade for Montez Sweat. So if they trade another one, it could limit them in picks, but maybe they're looking to trade back in the first round, one of those picks too, so they can kind of recoup some draft picks there for them. Next, we got Justin Simmons. There was some talk about him during the season. There was some rumors about him and Surtain even after the season ended. Do the Broncos want to deal Justin Simmons? Not really. He's a star free safety, but Sean Payton he might be willing to do something like this to get that offense, his offense going. Offensive minded guy, get it going. And it's been brought up, so I do think it's possible. They are very thin on cap space. They're gonna have to dig themselves out a hole. Every team will dig. Anybody that's in a hole, they'll dig themselves out. But you want to get cap space. You want to get the zero and then some. You don't want to just get the zero because it's the rule. Because it is, but you want to be able to spend. So they want to get there. And they would like more draft picks. They're a potential team to trade up in the first round to get a quarterback. So this could definitely help them. So Eagles make sense for multiple reasons. They possibly could trade Hassan Reddick. That can clear space. Opens things up there. They're pretty loaded on the defensive line. And Reddick we talked about in the last video. So if you're looking for Reddick, it's kind of a blockbuster trade potentially. But that's in the last video, slightly different video, but talking about trade candidates. Justin Fields also in that video, Mac Jones. But the Eagles could trade Hassan Reddick. They're already pretty deep on the defensive line where they really, really struggled this year in a lot of spots. But linebacker and safety, and they could value that a little bit more. As they don't really need to focus too much on defensive line, even if they trade Hassan Reddick. So they can kind of go out and make a splash move for one of those players in their weak spots. And Justin Simmons makes a lot of sense there. It's that free safety, that playmaking free safety they do not have. Another reason, they bring in Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator, obviously was with the Dolphins last year. Javon Holland played great with him. Obviously having that star safety in there is huge. So you get a star safety in Justin Simmons, but we can go even further with that. He actually coached Justin Simmons when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos, and Simmons was a star with Vic Fangio as well, so familiar with that defense. So a lot of connections there. I think a second-round pick made sense. I felt like I had to add something else with that because he's a star free safety, one of the best in terms of playmaking ability and a single high coverage, which is very tough. So second and a sixth to the Broncos. They clear space, which they need to do. They gather picks, which they need to do for a potential trade up or not. So Eagles definitely helps them out a bit. How about Jaire Alexander? I mean, right now it looks a little less likely, but a few weeks before they got eliminated for the playoffs, it looked like this was a possibility that he could be dealt from the Packers because he was in and out during the year. He's kind of had some small durability issues. It's nothing long-term or major. And then he made himself a captain, went out on the field and did all that. And the Packers, the team, suspended him for a game. So they were kind of, not putting up with his crap, right there. But that doesn't mean they're going to trade him just because of that. But it didn't seem like the two sides were great at that point. And there's people talking about Schefter was talking about too, what's going to happen in the offseason with Alexander? He's due a lot of money. It's not a guy you just give away or you just cut, nothing like that. But there was a talk at some point about it. They drafted pretty well in the secondary in that draft in general, so maybe they feel like they can get young players. So maybe they move on. Maybe there isn't a big, connection between the staff and Alexander anymore. You could argue against that either side. Packers defense played a lot better, and especially Alexander in the postseason, so that kind of could keep him there. But if you were to be traded, if you were to predict blockbuster guys, like big-time players, I think this has got to be on the list. Not that it's for sure going to happen or anything like, or not that I'm even predicting it, but I think a year ago his value probably would have been a first-round pick. I think it probably dropped a little bit, but a second and a fifth for a star corner if he's on the field. The Rams stood out. I mean, this remind me a little bit of when they traded for Jalen Ramsey. Remember they traded for Marcus Peters at one point as well. And they traded for Jalen Ramsey. They valued the big-time corners, obviously, in their prime parts of their career. And now this year they made the roster worse. They wanted to kind of get a turnaround, maybe this year. They were kind of looking ahead. They end up playing much better than expected. Stafford can still ball. They got other players that can play. So they realized, all right, we were in a little bit of a hole last year. We had to move on from some players, but now we go. Let's go get let's get better. Let's get some big time players. They value corner. You wouldn't know it by this past year, but it was kind of their off year with those things. And Witherspoon played pretty well, but it kind of, the weakness at the position kind of showed in the playoff game against the Lions, especially in the first half. So this would, again, remind me of trading for those big time corners like Jalen Ramsey, go out and get Alexander and really value the position like they do. So Rams, Alexander, Packers, a second and a fifth round pick. They loved how they drafted last year. They had a load of picks, so get even more picks. I mean, they have a good amount of picks as it is too, but something I could see. Not counting on any of these, but something I can see. And then one more. How about Jonathan Allen? And he definitely could work with Dan Quinn's defense and with the Commanders. Like, he definitely can be a stud. I guess he didn't really have that type of player with Dallas. Would he play defensive end or interior? He played more interior recently for the Commanders, but he can play defensive end. So is he going to be like a DeMarcus Lawrence for Dan Quinn? Like, what is he going to be? He's definitely going to value more of the pure edge rushers more. So, and he's going to like Deron Payne on the inside as well, and he could like Allen at both those spots. It could work. He could be a stud for sure. They don't have to trade him, but they could look to value other things, and they could look to move on. And you see Allen had a lot of frustration this year. He's been there for a bit, and he's sick of losing. But it is a totally different staff, really top to bottom. So that could be appealing for him to stay, perhaps. But it's an interesting one. Again, trying to find guys that don't have a high probability of being traded, but could be. We're not just going with some random guys here. A lot of value here. Could he go for a late first round pick? I wouldn't rule it out, but probably not. Second and fourth, could it be a second and third? I don't know. I think a team would rather keep their draft picks. Second and fourth, Texans made a lot of sense. I keep bringing up the Texans with players, kind of the versatile defensive linemen, the hybrid type players, the guys that are like, is he a D tackle? Is he a three technique? Is he a defensive end? He's all of the above. I think DeMeco Ryans is looking for that type of guy, and that type of guy thrives in his defense. We've seen it in San Francisco. So here is a good option, a really good fit in that defense, a guy who can play, again, all those spots. So that would be my favorite fit, would be the Houston Texans, who are ready to take that next step. We're not just this rebuilding team anymore. We're going to go compete because we competed this year. We're going to do it even more next year. So we'll get a big-time player for DeMeco Ryans' defense. Definitely my favorite fit if Allen were to be traded. So that's kind of what this is about, like blockbuster options, blockbuster trades that could possibly happen. And if they were to happen, what are their best fits? And you can argue other teams. And in the comments, if you have more players, let me know. People blurting out. Devontae Adams gets brought up a lot. I don't know. They brought in Getsy because he's familiar with him. I think they want him to stay. I think Adams is having fun there, actually. That under Antonio Pierce, too. I don't think they really have any plans to trade him. I don't know if another team and the Raiders could agree on compensation either, because then the Raiders would need a late first, and if it wasn't, it was an early second plus a lot more things. I don't think a team is dying to give that up for an aging receiver, even though he's very good. I just don't think they're going to do that. So I'm not expecting, that's why he's not in this video. I'm really not expecting, not that I'm expecting all these, but I think these are definitely way more likely. Again, most recent video, it's a little bit different format, but it's more likely options in landing spots, several landing spots, trade value. We talked about Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Hassan Reddick, some more of the likely guys there. More rumors will come out. We'll have you covered instantly on Twitter and then right here on YouTube. So hopefully you join us for all of our off-season coverage. It's a great time of the year. I love this time of the year here. So that's going to do it. Please help us get to 100K. We are almost there. Appreciate the support. Check out our sponsors, GLE Shop, Liquid IV. Links pinned in the comments, code GO. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.